Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. I know it's 3 p.m. I know your lunch is slowly going through. Okay, hopefully you have had a couple of coffees. But I'm super excited, and you should be super excited to have two great entrepreneurs on the panel, to have 3 great investors. And I'm going to introduce them to you one by one, and they will be talking about the future of mobile. Okay? So just starting from here, we have Enrique Linares, okay, CEO and co-founder of Letgo, a mobile classifieds that has raised over $250 million. Okay. Then we have Ben Evans, partner at Andreessen Horowitz. Andreessen Horowitz is a leading venture capital fund in the US. They have over $3 billion in under management, and they have invested in Facebook, Airbnb, Pinterest, you name it. Then we have Alex Lopera, co-founder and COO of Burst, a leading mobile peer-to-peer payment platform. They have raised over $10 million from European and US investors. Then we have Matthieu Barret, okay, partner at IdInvest, a leading European fund. They have invested in a number of companies. For instance, here in Spain, they invested in SocialPoint and at Kantox. And finally, we have Chris Rogers, okay, partner at Lumia, a leading venture capital from the US, and they have invested in great companies like Hired, Instacaro, and so forth. So I'm super excited that we have these 5 individuals here that will bring some light on the future of mobile. And by the way, when we mean mobile, we don't mean the carriers, okay? We mean mobile internet, we mean software brought on mobile. So first of all, I wanted to ask to the entrepreneurs, to Enrique and Alex, if you can, guys, just shed some light on your businesses, okay? I mean, what's basically sort of your business model, and what have you been disrupting with your business so far, and how mobile has helped you to disrupt that? Enrique, maybe you want to start?
Yeah, thank you, Uriel. Yeah, as Uriel said, I'm one of the co-founders of Letgo and the CEO. We co-founded Letgo 2.5 years ago with Alex Osenfor and Jordi Castillo. Letgo is the fastest growing mobile classified platform in the world. We create the company with the mission to mobilize the second-hand economy, to make the second-hand economy bigger, and to become the biggest marketplace in the world. No? During these 2 years, I mean, we grow a lot. I mean, we find like the perfect model for the perfect markets. We had more than 50 million downloads in these 2 years.
Sorry, 50 million, okay?
50 million downloads, yeah. We had, monthly active users at the end of 2016 was more than 20 million, which means that we had a growth of more than 250%. And we grew more than 1,000% on the number of items posted daily in 2016. No?
And why do you think that mobile has helped you achieve that growth?
Well, the thing with mobile is that the user experience is completely different. No? Our main market is the US, where we are mainly focused, but we are also on Turkey, Canada, and Norway. There are some traditional players. Most of them are mainly web-based, even they have an app. And the experience that we are offering the users with Letgo is completely different. No? Thanks to the GPS, thanks to all the features that the mobile gives you, everything is much faster, and that experience is helping us to disrupt.
Excellent. Alex.
So hello, everyone. My name is Alex. I'm the co-founder and chief operations officer at Verse. So Verse, it's a peer-to-peer mobile payments app that lets you pay and request money from any of your phone contacts. We're currently live everywhere in Europe. So we launched our app February last year, first in Spain, and we started like launching everywhere with the goal to lead mobile payments in Europe.
Excellent. And how do you think that mobile changes from what there was before? I mean, what has mobile enabled you to offer to your customers?
Sure. So we enable our users to do mobile-to-mobile payments. So before we came, they were paying their peers using the IBAN code, which literally sucks. You really need to request to your friends, hey, can you send me a 24-digit code so that I can pay you? Mobile helped us, do instant payments and share your expenses with your friends in a very easy way.
Excellent. So now a quick question to the investors. Can you tell us one of your investments in mobile that you kind of sort of feel proud about because of what they have disrupted so far in their industries? I mean, very briefly, I mean, Chris, I don't know whether you want to start.
Yeah, I can do that, but I actually want to get a little better sense of this audience. If you guys are entrepreneurs, could you raise your hand? Okay, so about, about half, I guess? Because usually when I see an audience and speak to them, particularly at a mobile-centric conference, the best entrepreneurs are looking at their device. They're not looking at us. And I don't see that many devices. I see a really good entrepreneur right here. But not that many of you. But if you want to look at your device, feel free. I certainly don't mind. So back to your question. You would have to ask me at which stage of my life, because luckily I've been in the wireless business for 30 plus years, and I'm sure that my first investment in wireless was my best, and I will never match that. But in our current fund, I don't actually look at the investments in wireless as investments in wireless. I look at them as areas that touch wireless, that are enabled by the ubiquity of connection, or just have relationships with carriers. Sometimes it can make their day, even if that's just a customer care AI relationship. And across our platform, we have a lot of those. Maybe most interesting, we were speaking earlier about Careem. So Careem is an Uber-type service in MENA. They're doing really well. They just took in a $350 million round. 250 of it was from Rakuten. And they're beating Uber in some of the key markets like Saudi and UAE. They have across their markets 20, maybe 29 now, different deals with carriers.
Wow.
So those deals span a bunch of different aspects, but they have effectively enabled their business. And so that's one you might not think there's a mobile business, but there's a business that's dependent on the mobile ecosystem.
So that's a good learning. Think about carriers as potential partners.
Yeah, I mean, as for Chris, we don't look at mobile as a vertical by itself, right? I mean, it goes across different sectors. Anyway, to just answer your questions, I think we've been pretty lucky back in 2009 and 10 when we invested in mobile gaming. That was, I think, the right time to do that. We invested in SocialPoint, that you may know here, that we sold to Take-Two Interactive last month. And we also invested in a company called Pretty Simple, which is that does a mobile game called Criminal Case that has been the #2 played game on Facebook for months and months. So they've done very, very, very well.
Excellent.
So again, I mean, we love all of our children equally. So I don't want to call somebody out on stage. I think, I mean, I think there's sort of maybe 2 points. One is that, mobile is sort of a generational shift. It's a new S-curve that replaces the PC S-curve. And so, in a sense, saying you're a mobile business is like saying you're a digital business, which doesn't really mean anything anymore. I mean, we have, for example, we have an investment in a company called Instacart, which is essentially a sort of Uber or Lyft for getting your groceries delivered. So somebody goes to the supermarket, buys the stuff that you've selected, takes it to your home. Is that a mobile business? Well, the guy who goes to the store has got a smartphone and they're using that in order to manage the thing. You can place the order on your tablet, on your PC, on your smartphone. You probably will do it on your smartphone, and half of smartphone use happens in the home. Is that a mobile business? Well, some of it's enabled by a smartphone, but it's more just, okay, this is a new business. And I think there's a, sort of twisting on that final point, and I'm saying mobile now when half of all use happens on smartphones happens in the home on Wi-Fi, almost doesn't mean anything anymore. We can't really think about a mobile use case anymore that you would do on a mobile phone. It's more just, well, this is the computer you have. That's your default device, and it's a much more sophisticated, much more powerful, much more capable device than the PC that you have kind of in a room upstairs turned off. And so, like, any consumer service is going to be sort of, to begin with, mobile first, and then probably mobile native or mobile only. And that kind of increasingly happens in for enterprise sort of end user facing things as well. It's just like the new platform.
Okay, but then here's my question is, when an entrepreneur comes to you and they say, hey, I have this wonderful B2C business, okay, I have my web, have my mobile app, hey, what are you guys going to be more interested in, apart from sort of learning about the business model? I mean, isn't it that sort of, for instance, a web-only business now difficult to work on a B2C environment, but you would be certainly interested about sort of looking at mobile metrics, I mean, engagement on mobile, and so forth. I mean, just so that people understand that you, I understand that you're looking at business models as a whole, okay?
Well, so
but at the same time, the mobile angle is very relevant for you.
I mean, there's a joke that someone says, so Mrs. Kennedy, apart from that, how was your trip to Dallas? And when you say, like, apart from the business model, what do we look? Well, no, that's kind of what we look at. And so, well, then it depends what you're trying to do. What's your what is the proposition? What is the problem that you're solving? What secret do you have that's going to allow you and only you to solve this problem? Are you the entrepreneur that has the kind of the will to power to drag this business into existence out of thin air through kind of sheer force of energy and willpower? Do you have the right idea about how to build it, about how to go to market, about how to get customers? And you know, there are some businesses where we'll sit and argue about whether Apple will kill you, or whether Facebook will kill you, or whether Google will kill you. But there's lots of others where we're arguing about, okay, how are you going to get this stakeholder group or that stakeholder group to play along with you? Like, you know, the question for Instacart was, well, how do you get the retailers to play? That's not what are your metrics. It's a completely different question. You know, what are the unit economics of sending a guy to a supermarket and then sending them home, and what percentage can you take, and can you get the supermarket to give you some money? And those are all the questions that matter for that business. So it really does depend on what you're looking at.
Well, I mean, we don't look at mobile specifically. I mean, if it's a B2C, we look at metrics. I mean, the growth metrics, the return rate. I mean, the classical metrics, we don't do that. It's a web metric, there's a mobile metrics. Mobile is just a way to access, to deliver your service, right? I mean, so we don't make any distinction on our side, right?
And I might help make your point here that you're hoping somebody says. Because we do look often to be the value-add investor when companies think about expanding outside of their market. And with our particular focus on some emerging markets, Southeast Asia, LATAM, MENA, the applicability of the service, the idea, whatever, to a mobile-based platform is important there, more important there, because the options for access to the internet otherwise are quite limited. So I hope that makes you feel better about your question, even though,
so
of course, all those same other filters have to apply. That alone would get no reaction. You need everything else, and then that's another nice thing to have.
That's actually very good. So I mean, just to summarize, I mean, the transformation into mobile. So putting mobile at the end of your kind of sort of your pitch line probably doesn't mean much to investors, but actually, how do you integrate mobile into the whole business model, into the whole experience? That's effectively what you guys are looking into. So just moving on about the future, because so far we have been talking a bit about the past and giving context. I mean, what are some of the business models, some of the technologies in mobile that you guys are most excited about at this point in time? Okay, the entrepreneurs, other than your companies, obviously. Okay. So who wants to start? Chris, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you're in this environment of Mobile World Congress, you're seeing a lot of them, and as I mentioned, things that have a dependency on the ubiquity of connection, and you know, basically that turns into the whole IoT space. We've seen a lot of connected car activity over there, which is fun. A lot of the interesting devices for the home, some of which still, are looking to be a platform, a sort of a Trojan horse into the home, and then there'll be the platform by which all things will connect and interrelate. I'm not as excited about that yet. I think bigger players will take that space, but and certainly drones and robotics and wearables, there are winners in those spaces, and in the business cases, the verticals where they can focus and build platforms that create great revenue patterns, we're very excited about that.
Anything kind of sort of specific that you say?
On mobile specifically, I mean, as I told, it's not a sector by itself. So we're excited by great entrepreneurs in big markets globally, right? But so on mobile, I can answer as a VC, right? I mean, saying what we're seeing, the projects we're seeing arriving, that's a trend of what's happening. And so the mobile has started, but will more than ever become your gateway to your personal life, right? I mean, today you're managing a lot of things. It's going to be embedded into yourself, right? So today you're managing your social life, your communications, your music, a lot of things through a mobile. We start to see your banking, for instance, that has to be managed with your mobile. Now, we see more and more banking applications on mobile. And tomorrow, coupled with the connected objects, you're going to have, you manage your health. You can diagnose yourself, for some disease, and you can track also your health. And that's we start to see that kind of digital health, coming in. And also for your, it can be a remote for you, in your home as well. So you see a lot of more new usage, coupled to your mobile that is coming. And in addition to that, that triggers also new features on your mobile, right? I mean, I think of two things which may be very important. First, we're seeing more and more authentication. I mean, authentication will change. It will never be a 4-digit authentication in the future. So we're seeing authentication in the cloud. We're seeing authentication based on how you just behave with your mobile, So reinforced authentication on the mobile. So that's pretty interesting. And we start, but it's a very early stage yet to see artificial intelligence applied to mobile. So, we understand exactly who you are, what are your needs, and they will be able, to anticipate your needs. So you have to go to a meeting in 1 hour, they'll check the traffic for you and tell you, hey, but you should leave now because with the traffic, you're going to be late, right? Or you're in a conversation in a chat with someone and you have a chatbot that comes and say, hey, you're talking about going out tonight. Here are some good restaurants, in your area. So we start to see that type of applications, And then security as well will be probably a topic in the future.
Just a question for the audience. So, guys, apart from a phone, who owns a wearable? It could be a watch, it could be something. Please raise your hand. Who owns a wearable, a connected wearable? Okay, that's good. So, who owns a drone? Anyone? Anyone? Excellent, that's very good. We have 7 to 8 drones, okay? Beware of the flight conditions today. That's great. Okay, please continue.
Sure. So besides being really invested in innovation in financial services, I'm also really interested in machine learning driven companies, and especially targeting self-driving cars. So we've seen amazing exits last year, such as Cruise. I don't have a driving license, so I'm really waiting for a car to take me everywhere. And then like, I'm also super interested.
But he has the age to have a driving license, okay? Although he looks like, yeah.
I'm also like really interested in mobile enterprise software. So we've seen great companies that are helping startups to like be more productive, such as Trello or Asana. So I think that companies that help you have a clear communication within your team and really like measure what you're making are great. And I think that we need more of those.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think I agree with all of that. I mean, we are sort of in the upper and flattening part of the S-curve for mobiles. And, you can see that if you go up to the other show that, the phones are all a bit better than they were last year, but, there's no kind of radical change. And, the cameras will get a bit better and so on. But, the improvement is kind of incremental now. I think it is interesting how much stuff is going to get built with the supply chain from the mobile phone industry. So, 1.5 billion smartphones sold last year as opposed to like 275 million PCs. So like all the components that are produced for smartphones then turn around and are available to be used for other things. Not that that's easy, but the components are there. And so that's what's behind Nest and drones and all these other devices. But then again, I think absolutely the new thing is machine learning. That's the wave that's kind of sweeping across the industry. And right now, the whole tech industry is sort of running around with a hammer hitting everything to see if it's a nail. And it sort of turns out that most things are. And, there will be some things where, both of the entrepreneurs here will be deploying machine learning in their business and getting improvements on the thing they were doing before. But then there will also be stuff that you kind of couldn't do before in any way, particularly around things like images and voice, where computers really couldn't process at all. And so I think there will be a lot of places where things like voice or things like images create entirely new ways of solving problems. And there will be things that it wasn't obvious that those were machine learning problems, or it wasn't obvious that those were image recognition problems at all. Trivial example, I do my expenses by taking photographs of the receipt instead of typing the stuff in. I don't think anybody 10 years ago thought that expenses was an image recognition problem. And so there'll be a lot of that whole question of what does it mean that computers can read images the way computers could read text in 1960, to kind of simplify grossly. That, I think, is the next wave of sort of fundamental technology across the industry. And then on the other hand, also you have VR and AR coming up in a couple of years' time, and then you have electric sweeping through the car industry now, and then you have autonomy arriving in maybe 5 to 10 years, depending on who you ask.
Just the audience. I know that Ben speaks very fast, okay, but he has a fantastic newsletter followed by 65,000 people, okay, that you can kind of sort of have a full download on machine learning and so forth. Just one thing on machine learning. Why do you think that machine learning is more enabled by mobile, or that mobile would be a significant boost to the sort of the machine learning?
So there's several answers to that. One of them is that things like the sensors on mobile mean that you can get more data, and you can get data that would have been quite difficult to do on a computer. Particularly, there is a camera there, and there's location, and there's all this extra data, and that's kind of a much broader point that the smartphone is just a more sophisticated thing than a PC, partly because of all of the sensors. I think another is that quite a lot of the machine learning processing will happen on the device. So I had this sort of really interesting observation someone from Google made to me, which is that it might very often use more power, more battery power, to turn on the radio and send data to the cloud than to analyze the same data on the device. And secondly, that though we think of Google as having kind of infinite computing power, if you think about what Google's ARPU is, what their revenue per user is, and then think about the cost of the processing in your phone, you've actually got more processing in your pocket than Google could afford to allocate to you 24/7. And so a lot of that processing will get done on the device, and then the device will provide a lot of data. But then just also more generally, that will be everyone's computer. So the services that you use on your you'll use on your smartphone, and more they will be powered by machine learning. Either very obviously they'll be doing something that you couldn't have done before, or just if you use the fingerprint recognizer on your iPhone, well, that has a neural network in it now. That you don't think of that as AI, but there's a neural network in there that makes the fingerprint scanner better. So it'll just kind of be in everything.
Yeah, and related to what they say, what I find super interesting about mobile is the fact that we assume that there are markets that there is a dominant player, and no one and is going to be the dominant player forever, no? Because of mobile and all the tools that mobile has, what you said, no? The artificial intelligence applied with all the sensors that a mobile phone has. We start to see lots of startups that they're really hitting that. We go back, it could be something similar to what happened with Instagram and Facebook, no? That sometimes Instagram was a much easier experience, very focused on photo, less data, but for users, they follow a space, no? And also Snapchat and all those stuff. We also have Wish that is making amazing with the feed and all, and it's a B2B business that is B2C, sorry, that is working super well, and that is really impressive for me. Yeah.
And I think that with regards to actually how people are using mobile internationally, you also have a nice example in Middle East, no? I think that there's a country in Middle East that actually is working quite well for you, no?
We are working with Turkey. Turkey is working very, very well for Let Go. Our main focus is the US, but at some point we start to do marketing in several markets, and we found that the results in Turkey were awesome, no? So we decided to focus there. Probably there is a lot of what you said, Chris, that lots of people in Turkey started to access the internet through the mobile phone. There is, Sahibindem, which is the traditional classified platform. They are great, they do very well, and they have an app, but they lack all the experience, all the sensors, the way we use the data that the mobile phone gives you. We optimized that. They were not doing that, and because of that, our growth has been exponential, has been very, very high.
Interesting. So just going back to a couple of the things that you have mentioned. I mean, with regards to connected cars, no? I mean, everybody thinks about, that we may not need to own a car, or maybe we'll be renting a car in the future and so forth. How quickly do you see that happening? Because a number of people believe that, hey, people want to have their own cars, they want to have the intimacy in their cars and so forth. I mean, is there a proper debate here to be had with regards to timing of adoption, if it will be mainstream or not?
So I think there's kind of two phases here. There is the ride sharing that we have now, and there will be a point of equilibrium in each city based on the density and the pricing and what the traffic looks like, as to what proportion of people decide they can go from having a car to not having a car, or from having two cars to having one car or something. And we'll kind of reach that point. That will stabilize over like the next 5 years or something. Then there is autonomous vehicles, and the key to an autonomous vehicle in this context is that if you take out the driver and you remove the insurance, because you'll cut the cost of the insurance because you're having many fewer accidents, and of course in a fully autonomous world, which is many decades away, then you have no accidents at all. Then the cost of an on-demand ride goes down probably by 3/4. So it goes down by like 2/3 even if you just take the person out and you still got the same insurance, and then the insurance is another 10 or 20%. And so at that point you become cost competitive with public transport. In fact, you may be much more efficient than public transport if you look at things like cost per passenger mile, like think how many buses are going around empty. And so at that point, it can become much cheaper and much more affordable not to have a car. However, you still have questions of like, well, yes, if you're 25, then not having a car sounds great. If you've got 2 children and a dog, and you want to go to the park, and then you want to go shopping, and like, no, this is, having a car actually seems quite attractive. I think there's like a kind of a broader point that like people think about electric as being about just replacing the gas tank with a battery, and it's not. It's more like ripping the spine out of the car and totally changing the car industry. And people tend to think about autonomy as like, well, you don't have a driver anymore and you don't have to look at the road anymore, but it's actually not. It changes the car, and it changes how the car is built. Like, if there's no accidents, you can change how you build the car, and it changes what kind of vehicles you have, and it changes how your city works. Because like, if you have no parking and no congestion and an on-demand ride costs the same as a bus ticket, then that decision about, do I want to go out to dinner in that neighborhood that's going to be really busy and it's dark and wet and I won't be able to park and a taxi is expensive, like those whole calculations change. Going to the supermarket changes. Like all of the stuff that all of the ways that cars change cities could potentially get changed again as a result of autonomous vehicles. But as I mentioned earlier, this is like 5 to 10 years away just to get the first vehicle that you can completely reliably drive by itself. No one's any really close to that at all. So, we were talking about 20 or 30 years before you have like a mass market, the majority of vehicles are autonomous, at least. So if you think about trying to make predictions about what the internet would look now back, 30 years ago, you wouldn't really have got very much of it right. So I kind of hesitate to say anything more than making this kind of grand observations.
Alex, you may need to own a car, no? That's the conclusion, no? Maybe you will know it wait 20 to 30 years.
Build a $20 billion exit and sell the company, and then you'll have a self-driving car. It will just, it'll just be different.
Named Alfred. Yeah. So just because you wanted controversy, you begged us for controversy, and also because I don't really have 30 plus years left, I'm voting that this transformation is more like maybe 15 or 20 years, because I hate driving and I'd like it to happen. And I do think that there's some interesting dynamics that come into play. We have in the US, you may know we have a new president. I'm not sure you're aware of that, but if you have heard that we do, he has some massive infrastructure projects that he intends to bring to bear. But in general, we've underspent on infrastructure. And these are, very big numbers that can change things. And if you found yourself in a situation where your medical costs went down because there are no accidents, and your infrastructure could basically disappear because you're so efficiently using the roads, you could see some incentives that could push that adoption faster? Because I don't really think, as you're pointing, it's not just the technology, it's a whole social and how the cities are set up and everything else. But I'm betting that something in there could really accelerate it more than we're thinking.
Just maybe to complete, I think we have to think that maybe to the speed of adoption may depend on technology as well, and the adoption of 5G, for instance, and 5G networks will be a bit trigger, to deliver new services. And I'm thinking at VR in particular. I mean, VR needs a lot of bandwidth, right, to be delivered over mobile. So today we're seeing good demo of VR, but as before that, it's having good quality VR games or films on your mobile. You need to have a 5G network. So the speed of adoption will also depend to me on how fast mobile carriers will deploy also the 5G.
Excellent, excellent. So, sorry, out of the entrepreneurs that we have here, how many are involved either in e-commerce or would be enablers of e-commerce? Hello? Okay, good. How many have bought on your mobile something in the last couple of months? That's very good. That's very good. So, mobile commerce, I mean, do you see that transition kind of sort of going, let's say, 80% buying things on mobile as opposed to, I mean, either on your web or kind of sort of physically at some point in time? I mean, have you seen people kind of sort of struggling making that transition, and what would be kind of sort of the enablers to that?
Well, I think there's some interesting dynamics around it that maybe we see in emerging market plays, which go to the complexity of logistics and holding inventory, and some of the things that can kill a developed market e-commerce player, really make it difficult to play those games in emerging markets. You also have lack of credit card penetration. You have decision-making versus, who can make it, who can spend it type dynamics in family units. And so we're not big fans, particularly of inventory holding e-commerce players in most of our markets.
Yeah, I mean, mobile commerce. It works? Yeah, yes. Mobile commerce is not, again, a topic by itself. It's just e-commerce, right? I mean, it's another channel just to do e-commerce. What we are observing we have few marketplaces investment is that the share of mobile commerce versus web has increased, over the past 2 years. And I don't know if you agree with that, but today we're in the range of 60 to 70% of transactions for e-commerce or marketplaces that go through mobile. So that's a big number, but I mean it should be even bigger in the future.
Excellent. And Alex, here for you as well. I mean, you probably are enabling more, I would say, the offline to mobile kind of sort of transactions. How do you see it from your point, being sort of an enabler for those transactions?
Sure. Right now, our current product only allows you to do peer-to-peer transactions, but we're already thinking about doing peer-to-merchant, and that's something that we're going to launch really soon. So we've seen a lot of e-commerce players reaching out to us saying like, hey, we have massive traction from people that wants to pay mobile, and really wouldn't have really a solution for accepting cards or really something that is easy for our audience or customers to pay us. So I think that millennials are really paying more through their mobile phone than on the web, and that's something that we're really interested in.
If you look at the history of e-commerce, since the beginning, since 1995 or something, and there's pretty good data for this in the US, it's now something like 12 or 13% of total US retail if you strip out gasoline and restaurants. So the stuff you actually can buy online. You can't ship gasoline yet, that's not a great idea. But it's grown in an absolutely straight line. So it's not like a curve, it's just gone completely straight back since 1995 or 1996 or something.
Sorry, just to repeat, your number is 12 to 18%?
12, 13% of total US retail is online. You can argue it might be a little bit more than that, but it's kind of that order of magnitude. But the point is, it's grown in a completely straight line. And so now, as people's primary computing platform shifts from being PC to being mobile, and then their only computing platform is mobile, that will convert to mobile, and also the total will keep growing. There's a couple of questions within that, like, to me, like, the big question for the long-term growth of e-commerce is I think e-commerce is great at doing logistics. It's great at replacing the shop as the place you go to collect something as the endpoint to a logistics network. It's much less good at suggestion and curation and discovery. It's much less good at you walk past that shop or you walk into that shop and you see some beautiful thing that you didn't know you wanted. Or you knew you wanted a coat, but you didn't know what the options are, and Amazon is a terrible place to actually browse. Amazon is really, I don't really think of Amazon as a retailer at all, as much as kind of a logistics company, a platform company. And so, there's questions as to whether that growth could accelerate if you could find better ways of making suggestions and discovery. And whether, conversely, you might start running out of stuff that's easy to buy as a commodity. Now, people will buy anything online, so Amazon is like the 5th or 6th biggest retailer of clothes in the USA. Because if you already know you want a pair of camper shoes, you can go and look and you can say, I want those ones, and I'll order them. But you have to know the camper exists first. And so there's that other secondary question of, like, how do you discover that, and how do you know about it, how do you make that decision? I've kind of proposed that machine learning or kind of things like image recognition might be kind of interesting here, that, like, you should be able to connect something to your Instagram feed and then it would make makeup suggestions or handbag suggestions, or, you ought to be able to, the example I gave was, like, you should be able to drop 10 years of a decorating magazine into a neural network and then show it pictures of your living room, and it would say, you would like these lamps, you wouldn't like those lamps, so to speak. And, like, if I'd said that 5 years ago, that would have been science fiction. Now it's like, well, we kind of know how you do that, even if you couldn't do it yet. And so that might be a way that you get past some of these kind of curation, suggestion, recommendation questions. So I think that's where we are now.
Excellent.
Yeah, we are a classified company. It's like a marketplace, second-hand. So at the end, people buy and sell things on Letgo. One of the main advantages that we have at Letgo, and is very related to what you said, is that we have, thanks to the mobile experience and the feed where you enter into Letgo, you open the app, you have a feed with different products categorized by location and freshness, and you start looking the products that are on sale there. So that replicates very much the flea market experience. No? So it's experience that could be considered as e-commerce because people can buy things there, but it's more, lots of people that came to Letgo, they came to the app just to find good bargains, things that interest them, and that is super powerful because of that, the number of times that people open the app and enter into the app is much higher, the time spent on the app is much higher, and also it's a fun experience. It's like when you go to a flea market, you find unique things that you were not planned to buy, or you did, but just looking for it. While when you go to Amazon or some other B2C stores, probably you go there thinking on what you want to buy. No? Just to give some data here is what we consider that around 50% of the people that uses Letgo, that buy products on Letgo, they do that discovering, while the other 50 is because they go to the app, they use a search, and they look for something and they get it. No? And that's because of mobile, otherwise it will be very difficult.
Excellent. Yeah. So who of you has used virtual reality, augmented reality, which are not the same thing? Any one of you? Okay, quite a bit of that. So the other day, I was hearing a well-known entrepreneur saying, hey, augmented reality, virtual reality, this is a gamer's game. This is for people that are sort of just looking at very immersive experience, very small market. What do you guys think about it? Is it like that? Is it only B2C? Could be also maybe a B2B angle? How do you look at those two areas?
We spend a lot of time looking at both types of companies from a number of aspects, from how the wireless network can manage that traffic better to make the experience better at the right time, right place, to some of the computing power that's needed to take the mobile experience away from, or take nausea away from the mobile experience, some of those aspects. And I still don't know for sure what is the final, the real push that will take it, whether it's a consumer focus or an enterprise focus. But I think both focuses will absolutely succeed eventually. And we focus more on the enterprise. What I see both in the Bay Area and in different verticals around the world really is use cases and success in those use cases. Now, the form factor is improving, and you see some companies, we won't name names, but one company that has, they're probably a good bit clunkier than this, but they have a lot more functionality, and it's all in the device itself. And they've just signed a deal with that one carrier that has almost 900 million subs. So you can imagine what scale that will bring if they decide that that's a form factor that they want to use to differentiate their experience, their digital experience to their customer, which is going to be something different from just voice and SMS. That could be the accelerant right there that brings the prices down into the $100 range or something like that. And so I'm extremely bullish on it.
Excellent.
To me, it's just a matter of technology and use cases, right? I mean, if the technology enables the use cases, then you have a market. So if the technology is here, I mentioned 5G before, then we have to find the right use cases for VR, AR, and to me, I put also 360 cameras, in that field. And so gaming, obviously, is one of the verticals where we're seeing the most adoption today. It's still small, but I mean, it will increase. And then maybe everything which is live, the concert or the sport, the music, and are probably maybe to me two verticals where we can see in the future VR and 360 cameras, live 60 cameras. We can see a concert. You put your camera and you look around and you see the concert live as if you were in the concert. So that's maybe where I see maybe next use cases, but still it's at a very, very, very early stage.
A question here, but do you see yourself sort of in the next couple of years, people wearing kind of sort of what would be kind of sort of a Google glasses around, or things like, other type of lenses, or that's kind of sort of a bit of science fiction and just into the gaming kind of arena?
I think it's going to be a usage for your home, right? I mean, so it's not a usage that you will have remotely. I mean, when you travel, etc. So I think it's mainly usage at home. So you want, in my view, but I mean, I'm not. I cannot predict the future, but I don't see people, walking with their virtual reality mask in the street. But I think it's for us, at least as investors, we're tracking a little bit what's going on here. But timing is very important for investing, and for us, it's still an early play.
As Matthieu and Chris said, I think that there's definitely different use cases. Definitely in gaming, we've seen examples such as Pokemon Go. They've grown like crazy with AR, and you have Oculus is pushing super hard. Facebook's there as well. And I think there's a lot to do in the future of advertising and how you really present a product to your customers with virtual reality that can really improve the experience in buying and really for consumers. I think it's really good.
So we were investors in Oculus, and we're now investors in Magic Leap. So we got the VR one now. Hopefully we've got the AR one. I mean, just as a sort of side note, people use AR to denote two things. You use AR to denote Pokemon Go, and then you use AR to denote where you're wearing a pair of glasses that's placing something in the world that looks like it's really there. The one is a nice feature. The other is potentially the next multi-touch. So there's kind of a difference there. The vision of AR is you wear something that looks like a pair of glasses, or maybe a pair of Oakley sunglasses, and then maybe in 10 or 20 years' time, a pair of contact lenses. But for the time being, glasses, and they look more or less like what I'm wearing, or maybe like a little bit bigger. And then I can see your assets under management, and I can see what your last fundraise was, and or your Tinder profile, or whatever would be appropriate as the time as I'm walking down the street, or nothing. Or I might wear a watch and have them as reading glasses and take them out of my pocket and put them on when I'm in a meeting, and then we can put the same documents on the table in front of us, and we'll both be seeing them, even though they're not really there. And so I think the ability in principle to place absolutely anything into the world that looks more or less as though it's there, like you're not going to get tricked, but it will, you can suspend disbelief. It's there in the same way that something on a screen looks like you can use it. I feel like that could be the next multi-touch. That could be the next universal computing platform. Like, you're not going to wear a VR headset all day, but you could wear a pair of glasses all day, and you could certainly carry them with you all day and put them on for an hour or two at a time when you wanted to. That is not this year. It's a couple of years away. What are the use cases for that? Well, I mean, I'd actually invert your point. It feels like the B2B use cases are the easy ones. Like, there are people trying to get using like Google Glass type things for construction workers or oil workers and things right now. Because it's a hands-free use case, and you say, show me the steps for this, and they appear right here. I almost wouldn't say that's augmented reality either. I feel that's more just like a heads-up display. But like B2B use cases, enterprise use cases, medical use cases kind of write themselves. For the consumer, if the device is small enough, and then you can walk down the street and like your emails are here, or your Instagram's here, or your Twitter's, your Tinder profile appears above the person you're talking to, then that seems like that could be a universal product in the way that a smartphone is a universal product.
Excellent.
Yeah, not much to say. I mean, what can I say?
No,
Yeah.
no problem. Hey, you've seen those are the technologies, those are the business models coming. Okay, here we have 5 people that have a lot of wealth and a lot of experience on how to make the future real and how to make actually money for the entrepreneurs, for investors, and for everybody. So the question now is, what are I would say, the best practices that you have seen, that you have experienced in mobile businesses or in mobile-based businesses, in business in which mobile is at the centerpiece of the business, okay, with regards to international expansion, with regards to generating growth. If you want, we can concentrate maybe on B2C. What are some of the things that you have seen that either in your portfolio companies or that you as entrepreneurs have done with your companies that you have seen, wow, this was great, this sparked growth, this was... So, I'm not asking you about the secret formula of the Coca-Cola, but some of that, okay? So what are the best practices that these guys can go into their companies and, hey, let's change this frame, because those 5 guys were in agreement that we probably need to at least test a few things that we're not doing right now. So a few of the learnings.
Yeah, I let go. One of the big advantage of being a marketplace is that it's easier to scale. It's a C2C model, so it's relatively easy to launch in other countries where we are not physically based. And once it's very big, the monetization potential is huge. We took advantage of that. In fact, we have 2 offices, one here in Barcelona, the other one in New York. And when we started in Barcelona, we really didn't know where we were going to be focused. We just started to invest part of our marketing budget in several countries, up to 15, 20 countries. And we start to look at the results, see what makes sense, where we get the best results, and then we start to focus on that. So it was 20, we went to 10, we went to 5, and now we're focusing 4. What I will recommend to all the entrepreneurs here is that, if possible, try to internationalize your company. Sometimes it's much easier than you will ever thought, because sometimes the model works in a country that you have never been at, and it just happens. And also, there is also one tricky thing, and there is a point, based on our experience, where you really need to have local presence. I mean, you can grow up to a point, but at the same time, there are small different things in the countries that makes all the difference. No? We are very focused on the US. There we have a big office with especially all the things that needs to be close to the users, like transit safety, like most of the marketing is done there, and yeah, the things that we consider that should be close to the research. But we also have a small office in Turkey, and that makes all the difference, no? So there are like two steps. One, to start, if it's C2C, probably you can internationalize SE. But once you have a certain size, try to be very, very local and understand what is happening on your market.
Excellent.
Never having built an international business, I don't have any very specific advice to give you there. All I can say is the best entrepreneurs that we see know everything that's going on inside their business and can change it if they want to. I mean, our investing thesis this is why our investing thesis is that we want technical founders. So we want people who wake up in the middle of the night and know how to change their business and know that they need to change something and how to change it. And they, you know, we ask them a question and they either know the number or they say, well, I'll open Mixpanel and there's the number. And so like having that closeness to the numbers and to having sort of internalized everything about the business and, you know, waking up at 3 in the morning and knowing what has to be changed, that's always kind of the common factor.
So for us, really the key to growth has been attracting amazing engineering and product talent, and that's something we couldn't have done without them. And then like I think that as Enrique said, localization is key. So that's something that we're currently investing a lot of time in. You can grow at a certain point, but then you really need to like focus specifically on that market. And it goes like from copywriting to really targeting the marketing on how like that people speaks in such country.
Okay. And in your case, it was similar to Enrique. Like you launched in a number of countries, and then you're starting to focus on the winners, or it's sort of.
So we first launched in Spain, and then like we figured out regulations so that we could be live everywhere in Europe. So from Spain, we launched in Italy, France, Portugal, Germany, the UK, and currently now we're live everywhere in Europe. But we're seeing that we're more dominant in Southern European countries, and we're starting to like think about how do we really go big in the Nordics.
Okay.
Yes, the latest investment we've done in pure mobile is a company called Zenly. I don't know how many people in the room know Zenly. It's a social network based on localization. What they've done well, first they've gathered a fantastic team, tech team. It's very technological. I mean, you need to solve a lot of issues based on real-time location precision, a lot of things like that, and battery consumption, more or less. And what have been good, they've been able to attract the attention of Apple, that has done a lot of due diligence on their technology, that has featured them as number one in the App Store worldwide. So that has driven a lot of adoption. You know, I guess they're in around between 2 to 3 million users, which is still small because they're still in beta. I think they're releasing next month. You know, but that's maybe our latest investment we've done.
I think we get maybe a slightly different perspective on this because we have a focus on helping companies go global, whether that's from a smaller emerging market where they must, or from the US where they think they should, because by almost any measure, 9/10 or whatever % of internet activity or purchase or whatever are outside the US. So it's kind of a constant thing, oh, we want to go global. But to me, saying it is not the same as knowing that you should do it, and knowing that you should do it suggests that this is a data-driven decision. And so back to your point, you need to know what's going on in your business, and you need to understand why those metrics, or that use case, or those user economics, whatever it is, have applicability in another market, and you understand the regulatory. It really is not, it is a big turnoff if somebody says, I'm dying to go global, right? LATAM is next. I mean, they need to tell me why that is happening. And as a result,
there is no formula for it. There's as many different companies have a path to global. Now, of course, since we're in this mobile conference, we could say, yes, the mobile ecosystem can be a valuable tool to help you grow. If you're Dropbox and you got preloaded in an enterprise suite by 6 carriers in LATAM, well, you've got a LATAM presence. But I don't think there's one formula.
And in a B2C environment, how do you think, how critical in your businesses have you assessed the relationship with the Facebooks, with the Androids, I mean, with Google, with Apple, I mean, sort of with those enablers, plus how critical has it been with carriers? I mean, you have already, with the mobile ecosystem, from the startup, I mean, should they focus on kind of sort of trying to sort of penetrate and do some business development with the sort of those 3 elements, I mean, Google, Apple, for instance, Facebook, plus carriers? I mean, have you, in your businesses, seen significant value out of that? You mentioned a case in point. I don't know whether the others can add something.
So our main distribution channels are the App Store and the Google Play Store. So I think that it's really important that your product is up to date and that you really take seriously your user reviews, so that whenever someone is looking at your app, and especially in our case that we're dealing with someone else's money, people know that they can trust in us and they feel that our product is secure for them to really add their card banking details and start performing transactions. So that's something that we really take care very seriously.
Yeah, same here. No? At the end, the app stores are super relevant, and you need to be well positioned and have a good relationship with the people that manage those app stores. My experience is that you are not going to get something exceptional from that. I mean, everything is very regulated, and they are professional, so you get what you should get. But at least to be close to them, because sometimes you have issues, you have problems, you have doubts on how to do things, and you need to be close to them. Yeah, and that works especially well when you try to internationalize, no? Because sometimes you want to open a new country and there are some issues on those countries, and also our experience with Google is that they are a good source for that. No? They have a team that is dedicated to help companies being international, and they give you a lot of insights on the country and best practices and all that things. So yeah, for sure it helps. Yep.
And from an investor perspective, finally, I mean, how do you sort of can help those mobile entrepreneurs kind of sort of flourish on an international environment? I mean, just maybe sort of one quick case from each one of you in which you may have kind of sort of been able to, I don't know, bring your network to bear for some of the companies. So things that also they should be expecting from investors, the startups. So how to the mobile people, how you guys have managed to help them? No, just for investors, I mean.
Well, so the specifically unique thing about our model is that we have about 150 people, so sort of getting on for 10 times the size of a typical venture firm, and most of those people are in teams whose job it is to help entrepreneurs after we've invested. So we have a recruiting team and an exec recruiting team and a marketing team and a sort of business development team whose job is to have relations with big companies, and we have a public affairs team whose job is to help our companies understand how regulators and governments are going to think and how to communicate with them and how to work out how to build the business that they want in conjunction with those sort of other stakeholders. And so we spend a lot of time, obviously there are some companies for whom that's not relevant at all. There are other companies that we work with who, whether that's so we're investors in Airbnb, we're investors in Lyft, where that is relevant, and where we spend time talking with them and talking with government to think about, well, how do you address these issues?
Excellent.
Yeah, maybe just one thing. We've been VC for years and years, for more than 20 years. So we've backed a lot of entrepreneurs, and the way we do that, we just put them through the other entrepreneurs. They like what they want to do. I mean, they want to network, they want to share, they want to share their problems, their issues, their recruitment issues, their internationalization with others, you know. So what we do, we organize very, very often, I mean, some CEO network, you know, within our portfolio companies.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have similar methods there. Ours might be, again, a focus on taking them from one country to another. So, and that could be parading them in front of the three BD teams, partnership teams at the carriers in Singapore or in KL or Jakarta, or using the business, the retail people. It really depends on the company and the scope, but I think the bottom line is, yes, you should expect your investors to be able to help you do that. It's an important value add, and it's one that can really shortcut a lot of cycles of the entrepreneur's time, and efficiency is their best weapon.
Excellent. So really, guys, I think that they deserve a huge round of applause. So thanks a lot for being here. Thank you. Thank you.